For this video, I decided to explore the topic of education in Tajikistan and specifically focus on girls who are one of the most vulnerable groups when it comes to accessing education. As you go through the video, please reflect on how the information I am presenting relates to the country in which you live, the school in which you teach, and the children who call you mommy and daddy. I decided to choose this topic because I feel, as a teacher working in an international school in Tajikistan, I am in a bubble, and the reality outside my school is a completely different context that I wanted to understand better. In the research course that I teach, one of my students is looking at a similar topic and focusing on the important role secondary education for girls in particular plays in the overall development of Tajik society. Of course, like any other country, there are outliers. As you will see in this video, many girls do not have access to education, but there are many who do. I will be focusing on the girls who don't. A lot of research has been done to look at the impact of girls' education on society worldwide. These studies have found that girls with education become mothers who are healthier and whose children are healthier. In fact, it has been shown that women with post-primary education are 5 times more likely than illiterate women to be educated on the topic of HIV/AIDS. Furthermore, a child born to a mother who can read is 50% more likely to survive past the age of 5, and each extra year of a mother's schooling reduces the probability of infant mortality by 5 to 10%. Education for girls and women positively impacts families and communities. When women are educated and participate in the economy, they can earn more for their families and help their communities grow. The global community is concerned about the state of the world today. In particular, countries are struggling with providing basic necessities to its people, leaving them unemployed, unhealthy, hungry, illiterate, unable to voice their opinions, and live a good quality of life. So the global community, through institutions like the United Nations and other international bodies, have come together to discuss these concerns and put in place some goals for all countries to strive for. One of these set of international goals is the Millennium Development Goals, also known as the MDGs. The MDGs were established at the Millennium Development Summit of the United Nations in 2000, where all United Nations member states, including Tajikistan, signed the Millennium Declaration to show their commitment to doing everything they possibly can to achieve the 8 goals agreed upon. These goals include eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, achieving universal primary education, promoting gender equality and empowering women, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, combating HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, ensuring environmental sustainability, and promoting global partnership for development. Education for All is another global commitment that was launched in 1990 at the World Conference on Education for All. Its goal was to ensure quality basic education by the year 2000. Following a meeting to look at how countries around the world were doing in relation to reaching this goal, a decision was made to extend the time frame to 2015, since it was clear that most countries would not meet or even come close to achieving quality basic education. Education for All was developed in conjunction with numerous international organizations, namely the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the United Nations Development Program, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the World Bank. They partner with governments, development agencies, civil society, non governmental organizations, and the media to achieve 6 goals addressing the following issues: early childhood care and education, universal primary education, life skills and lifelong learning, adult literacy and continuing education, gender equity and equality, and quality of education. The Global Partnership for Education, a multilateral partnership comprised of close to 60 developing countries, donor governments, international organizations, the private sector, teachers, and civil society groups, was established in 2002. One of its 5 objectives is to promote girls' education. Launched in 2000 by the United Nations Secretary General to assist national governments in fulfilling Education for All Goal Number 5, achieving gender equality in education, and the Millennium Development Goal Number 3, promoting gender equality and empowering women. The mission of the United Nations Girls Education Initiative is to improve the quality and availability of girls' education worldwide. Tajikistan, a landlocked country surrounded by China, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, was part of the former Soviet Union until it achieved independence in 1991. Following independence, the country experienced a devastating civil war, which damaged school infrastructure, heating, water, and sanitary systems, and left behind a large number of female headed households, leaving mothers to marry their girls off early to help alleviate the financial burden of raising children. If we look at the population graph of Tajikistan, it is very clear that it is bottom heavy, with the majority of the population under the age of 30. With a high and growing birth rate, Tajikistan faces the daunting challenge of providing quality education in the midst of poverty, insufficient funding and resources, to name a few. A number of barriers to learning exist for girls in Tajikistan, poverty being the main one. According to the World Bank, in 2007, about 53% of the Tajik population was living below the poverty line on $41 per month. While basic education is free under the Constitution of Tajikistan, families are unable to cover the additional costs of clothes, books, shoes, and textbooks. Another barrier to girls accessing education is the poor state of existing school facilities. Some schools in the country, and particularly in the rural areas, lack heating, furniture, functioning toilets, and electricity. Surveys have shown that the lack of adequate heating in winter significantly influences attendance rates. Recent research shows that in addition to poverty, it is Tajik post Soviet culture and social attitudes which prevent girls from attending school and often dropping out at the secondary level. Gender stereotypes prevail. Girls are confined to traditional social roles of taking care of a household, children, in laws, and their husbands. A recent gender review by UNICEF found that 57% of respondents agreed that boys' education is more important than girls', and approximately 40% of girls believe that education will not positively impact their lives. In many families, daughters are considered temporary members because they will eventually get married. As a result, they don't consider investing in their daughter's education. The quality of education has a huge impact on barriers to learning for these girls. What kind of education are they receiving when teachers are not motivated to teach, given their low salaries, and often infrequent salaries? The curricula is outdated at least a decade, if not more. The schools lack appropriate educational resources, and teachers are either not qualified or do not receive regular professional development. Concerns about girls' safety and isolation in walking long distances, especially in the rural areas, also prevent parents from sending their girls to school. And finally, another important factor that prevents girls from going to school is their participation in various forms of labor, including in the cotton growing areas, to help their families earn an income. While this is the case for boys as well, it is especially true for girls given all the reasons mentioned previously. It's 2015. While Tajikistan, like many other countries, has a long way to go in achieving the goals set out in the United Nations Millennium Declaration, Education for All, the United Nations Girls Education Initiative, and the Global Partnership for Education, all very lofty goals that require multiple inputs from various stakeholders. Much has been done since the development of these international measures. For one, these measures have definitely put girls' education on the international and national agendas. People are talking about it and looking for ways to address it. Various international organizations are supporting the Tajik government in achieving these goals by providing the necessary funding, technical expertise, policy dialogue, and other inputs. The president of the country has initiated the National Strategy for Education Development, a comprehensive strategic framework for the entire education sector in the country. This is an example of the commitment of the country's leadership to reform the education system and recognize the educational challenges faced by girls. In an effort to get more girls in schools, the government has recently announced various gender parity educational reforms, such as introducing stipends and other forms of financial assistance for girls and establishing quotas for entry of women into higher education institutions. Furthermore, numerous international organizations have been and continue to implement initiatives to address the goals set out in the various international measures, some of which I will describe here. UNICEF, for example, is creatively addressing the social norms surrounding girls and has piloted a life skills program in schools where girls learn practical domestic skills deemed important by their parents and society while learning how to read, write, and calculate. In this program, the girls also learn about HIV/AIDS prevention, conflict resolution, and negotiation. This helps the girls gain confidence and learn how to think and speak for themselves. A total of 850 girls are now benefiting from this life skills education project. Other organizations are implementing projects that aim to address other issues that prevent girls from accessing quality education. Some of these initiatives include revising the curriculum, providing quality professional development for teachers focused on child centered methodologies, and improving preschool and primary education. Recently, the Global Partnership for Education provided a grant of 16.2 million US dollars to provide access to quality and affordable preschool, modernize curricula and standards, and improve teacher training and teaching materials. So while many things are being done to ensure girls' access to quality education, other competing forces continue to affect achieving all the goals set out by the international community. Poverty continues to prevail in the country and has an impact on teachers, families, and students. Adequate funding and the appropriate use of funding for education is another big issue that will continue to hinder the quality of education for all children, including girls. Traditional stereotypes of girls in the home and boys in the workforce continue to dominate the thinking of many families. The important role fathers play in supporting their daughters' education is something to tap into. A lot still needs to be done. I'd like to spend some time reflecting on what I have learned through this process of understanding the situation of girls' education in Tajikistan. First of all, as a teacher, I feel really lucky to teach in an international school. I have the ability to develop professionally, for example, in the Teach Now program and other regular professional development sessions offered at my school. I have all the resources I need to provide my students with quality education, and girls and boys are actively participating in their learning at my school. I also think about maybe there are some ways that we at the international school can connect with local schools to exchange experiences and share information. I've also learned that laws and policies are important in making changes. And finally, as a parent, I feel really lucky that I am able to afford quality education for my son.